then? What's going on?
What's going on? So we know that mortgages have been coming down in price from a couple of the big mortgage companies, HSBC and NatWest.
Yeah, I saw this.
It's good news.
I mean, when they say this, that it's coming down in price. Now, obviously, the Bank of England set their rates, but then the banks themselves they've got wiggle room around that, right?
Of course they have, yes. I mean, look, with the base rate is, 5.25.
Yeah.
We had, 14, 15 increases on the spin. We were so used to having 0% interest rates.
Yeah.
People just thought it would never go up. But, of course, it always goes up. And, of course, we are old enough, Ian, and ugly enough to remember the times of 88, 90, when we had 14, 15% interest rates. And if you speak to the generation under us, they can't remember, and they think that you're talking in a different foreign language. But I think that the good news is that rates are coming down. We're waiting for Lloyds, Barclays, Nationwide and Santander to follow suit. But the reality is, I mean, if you look at the housing market, year on year, it's now going down about 5%. Of course, the market was razor hot for a number of time. But at lenders, the lenders have seen repossessions going up.
Yep.
They have been going up in this quarter from the previous quarter. And also we are seeing there's landlords as well that are going into arrears as well, which is an issue. But one thing that I did read from a report from Zoopla that came out very recently for first-time buyers is that if you want to buy a property in London, you've got to look at something like £140,000 deposit and be on 100 grand a year. I mean, that's crazy, isn't it?
That is madness, goodness me. And you're right. I mean, to bring in the landlord side of it, what's extraordinary about that, not only are landlords contending with, and I know we've talked about this many times, Paul, but it's so crucial to this, we've got a housing shortage. The private landlord sector was almost, I'm tempted to say, was the sector holding it up in the first place, making things happen because no other houses were being built by the government in any meaningful way. So we were really reliant on that sector. Not only are they dealing with these incredible hikes in their mortgage rates, because most of them have a mortgage as well, but they were also being subjected to all manner of other rules and regulations about being a landlord, that it's made the entire industry, which we do need, unattractive. And many are simply, if they're not losing their homes because they can't afford their mortgage, they're losing them because they're getting rid of them. They don't want the bureaucracy.
Well, that's right. I mean, it's not just the interest rates that you've seen a massive hike in tax. So with regard to landlords, and of course there's not a lot of sympathy for landlords out there naturally, but landlords are taxed. That they are taxed on turnover and not profit. Yeah. What business has that? That's been happening for a number of years. Then, of course, the interest rates shot right up. Then you've got loads of legislation changes, some of the biggest changes in 30 years happening. And then, of course, there's the electrical performance certificates grades that need to go up to level C in 2028, of which the average cost of putting a property from an E to D to C is something like £10,000 to £15,000. And so crazy. A lot of landlords that have been landlords for a long time say, you know what, I've had enough. And then, of course, you do have tenant organisations, dare I say it, such as Shelter and Generation Rent, that I don't think are helping the situation because they're demonising landlords. Let's be clear. There are some rogue landlords out there, some landlords that are very naive, and they need to be a lot better, and they need to be a lot more regulated, and they need to be educated better with regard to offering a better service of renting. But a lot of these landlords, I speak to landlords all the time, they feel ashamed of being called a landlord, and they're saying, you know what, I'm going to get out. Yes, I know I'm going to have a big tax bill for capital gains, but I'm going to sell my property. And the reality is, Ian, 153,000 properties came out of the private rental sector last year. So what does that mean?
Wow.
It means that there's decent tenants out there that have been paying the rent, looking after the property, that have been told, you know what, I have to leave. The landlord needs to sell. And of course, where do those people go and those families go?
Indeed.